This is the Unpivot Update Excel edition. I am Mark Proctor.
I'm Giles Mail. That's
Hooray!
it.
That's it. Just the two of us discussing Excel.
We can do anything we want. Hang on, I wonder if this is going to work. You ready? This is the mood I'm in, Mark.
Go on.
Let's talk Excel.
Why are you in a celebratory mood?
Because we don't have to like mix in Power BI and all that rubbish.
Oh, don't talk it down. The future and the past.
And that's Copilot, isn't it? Isn't that the future?
Copilot is the future, based on stealing everything from the past.
Yeah. Deep. You've gone deep there.
I have. So the purposes of this of these kind of mini episodes is to kind of dive more into specific products and updates for those products. So Sue and Win did one 2 weeks ago. Not you, Giles. You know nothing about Power BI.
Other than I don't like it.
And so Sue and Win did a session 2 weeks ago about the Power BI updates. So we're here talking about stuff in Excel.
Yay.
Now, I think before we started this, I think we both agreed that most of the updates in Excel are primarily driven by Copilot.
Yes.
Which is good and bad. I mean, if you've got a Copilot license, there's stuff coming through, but equally there's just stuff about the reliability of Copilot, what it actually does, the way it's being used. So, because one of the updates that did come through at the end of, or in April, was that we can now create tables with Copilot.
Oh God, that saves so much time, because I tell you what's really bugged me is having to press Control T that has been ruining my life. Thank God.
I know. So now you have to type, "Hey Copilot, if you wouldn't mind, please can you create a table for me in cell A1 of sheet 1?" And it'll go, "Ta-da." No, we'll say, "Thinking about it." And then about 20 seconds later, it goes, "Here's your table."
Okay, here's your VBA code. If you plug this into the VBA editor, and then hit run, it'll set up your table.
Now, we need all joking aside, I suspect it probably is a good thing, because it means that when anybody asks Copilot things, at least it knows that probably it should create a table. Because at the minute, I think it works on tables, but also things that are structured like tables, I think. But now this means at least it can create a table to then put your stuff into it.
Fantastic.
But that's on the back of a whole load of other Copilot updates. Some stuff has been quite useful. So when you open up a workbook now, if you've got Copilot, it does pop up and say, "Hey, I've noticed some inconsistencies in your data. Would you like me to fix them?" And you can at least look at them, and it says, you spelt the word timesheet in this column once with a capital T and once with a lowercase t. Do you want me to fix it for you? And you might think, yeah, I would like you to fix it for me. Unless if it's like a free-form column, it's still going to pick them up. So I don't know how useful that is. But equally, it has the ability to identify those anomalies. It's a shame that those don't exist in Power Query, where that's the place you'd normally want to clean your data.
We probably shouldn't just totally not Copilot, and partly just to protect our MVP status a little bit, but actually Copilot is the future. I'm convinced that at some point we will all be using it for almost everything. I just haven't made the leap yet, and I don't know about you with the training work you do, but for me, I'm not making that leap to training Copilot until it's stages ahead.
Yeah, I get from in our community, I get quite a few questions of, I put this into Copilot, this came out, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
can you fix it? And so it's kind of like you end up being the expertise, ends up being the backstop of a lot of that stuff, and so ends up being more frustrating, the fact that everyone's tried everything else and then they come to you. And then it's just about asking the right questions. And I think you're right. Copilot will be it will be the future. It's just taking time to get there and to standardize the things that we actually want.
It's tricky as well, isn't it? Because I've always thought Microsoft probably need as many people giving as much feedback and using it as much as possible to make it better, quicker. So grumpy gits like us just going like, oh, it's not good enough yet, is not helping. And I'm really stubborn on it. Like I would want to use Copilot when you have, let's say you had a bunch of data in a folder on SharePoint or whatever, or even just in a workbook, and you can literally just go, look at that data, analyze it, use anything you've got available, and it can lean on Python, Power Query, the data model. You know, it can assess it so intelligently that it genuinely does a better job than I would do using those things manually. And if it once it does that, which I'm sure it will at some stage, I mean, that's we're all in trouble then, kind of.
Well, I think there's possibly an issue with the way that Microsoft have tried to implement it inside Excel. So, for example, in Word, Copilot is used to generate your text. Am I still there? Oh, I thought I dropped out then. So in Word, Copilot is used to generate text, which is effectively your output, right? It's used to generate your output. In PowerPoint, it's used to design your slides, which is your output. In Excel, it's not being used to design output. It's being used just to use the tool itself. Yeah. So you'd expect that in Copilot, as you said, you'd be able to point at some data and be like, analyze this, and it would build all of that flow through to give you a final product, and then you could understand the process it's gone through. You could reverse engineer it, understand what's happened, and then then work with it yourself. Instead, it's kind of helping us to use the tool. So it's like in Word, I'm trying to think. If you didn't know how to insert, a new line, you'd be like, "Hey, Copilot, how do I insert a new line?" He goes, "Hey, I've just pressed return for you." That's kind of what it's doing in Excel. So I think the implementation in Excel is different to how it is in the other 365 products, and I think it's just because Excel is a lot more complex. But because of how they've implemented it, it means that people who don't know what they're doing, Copilot isn't really assisting them. It's helping them to not know what they're doing faster.
Yes.
When in the other products, if you don't know about design, right, you don't necessarily know what you're doing, but at least it's building that for you and gives you an end result. In Excel, you're building up piece by piece still.
We talked about this a while ago, and it's still something that I kind of think about, which is who is Copilot really designed for? Like, who's it targeting? And because I love talking about the Excel World Championship stuff, they had examples in Vegas. Bearing in mind, in Vegas, you've got like the top people in the world, the top modelers there, and there were some videos of like showcasing Copilot doing like level 1 of all of these challenges. Level 1 of these challenges takes people 10 seconds. It's like an X lookup on a set of data. And the amount of time it took to prompt the thing was ridiculous. So who's it for? If you know absolutely nothing about Excel, maybe that's the target. It's people like you said, people that don't really know how to do anything. You'd go to Copilot and go, "Oh, can you make a graph for me off that data? Can you show me how I would, link this product type to that set of transaction data?" And then it gives you the answer and you copy it in. I don't know. Is it that? Maybe it's not for us. I think we had this discussion a while ago.
I think we said this on the podcast. My view is it's for people who know nothing, who have got really basic needs, and actually there's not a lot of complexity. And it's for people who are experts, and therefore they know what they need, they know what they want. Copilot just gives it to them faster. It's the dangerous middle where people have some knowledge but not actually enough, which in Excel is.
I'm using ChatGPT so much for this stuff already. Like the amount of ChatGPT support I get to build lambdas, VBA, to troubleshoot stuff, to clean up code, Power Query code. It is fantastic. But that's, URL GPT, not Copilot.
Yes. Now I did see an example of somebody using this was ChatGPT, someone who gave an example where they were building a GPT, and so effectively they had the length of all their prompts and everything else, and it was the prompts as to what they wanted was significantly longer than all the results that they got. And so you think, if your prompt is that long, is it? I suppose maybe over time it saved you time. I don't know, but the prompt was enormous. It was possibly like 1,000 words, 2,000 words in the prompt, and the output wasn't that long. So I'm there thinking, I don't.
But anyway, this is where I think like it will get there. So again, again, like I understand why the focus from Microsoft is on it, because obviously it will get better and eventually it'll be amazing for people. I think that's inevitable. For example, one of the latest updates with ChatGPT sounds really simple, but it's a game changer for me, is it remembers your conversations. So I've been talking about it for various things, including TikTok, about my humble MVP persona, and it remembers. So I'll be brainstorming something else, and it'll be like, oh, you remember when we talked about this thing about that humble MVP couch you've got? Why don't we slot in this? I'm like, ChatGPT, that's amazing. How did you remember that? So, I can remember anything you said. Great. You imagine it applies that to like your actual serious coding logic. If the AI starts to get a real sense of what you like, how you like your coding to be built, then, and it's got that intuition and that memory, that would be pretty cool. And I think we'll get there.
See, now I've just got this image of you you're running out of time. You said, I'll use ChatGPT to build this slide deck for this client. You don't pay enough attention. You don't look at the output. And there's the picture of you in your fur coat with your arms out and your sunglasses on every single slide in the corner.
I mean, that should be what it is anyway. And the last slide would be the music video. So, yeah, it's good.
Right, so cool. let's move on from Copilot. I think we're both agreed it's the future. And actually, we probably both need to get on board with it more and try.
Well, we should be of some use, shouldn't we? Yes. We should probably just stop whinging about it and add some value. But it is quite fun whinging about it.
And that's the problem. Whinging about it is almost more fun than using it. Yeah. But other updates were, and I don't know if you saw this one, Giles, in the last month, were value tokens.
No.
No.
Hit me with it. Go on. What's value tokens?
Now, try not to use the term game changer here, okay? Because I know you're desperate to use the term game changer. So if you have a cell that contains a value that can't be represented using characters, so it might be a picture, it might be a data type, it's now going to show a small little coloured kind of pill shape or rectangle that will say picture, so that you know that cell contains a picture. So in the formula bar, it will have a small shape in the corner that says picture. And that's a value token.
Okay. I don't have an immediately negative reaction to that, I guess.
I mean, at the minute, there's nothing to indicate that it is a picture. I think it might display the alt text, but there's nothing to say that this is a picture or not a picture. So I think it's an update that possibly, I think it's useful. It's not going to change anyone. I mean, joking earlier, no one's going to use the term game changer or even get close to the term game changer. I think it's one of those things that will just slide in. People won't really notice it, and then it'll be like, hey, look at that thing's there.
My only slight worry, and again, I do catch myself sometimes thinking, God, like all you ever do is moan about things. And so this isn't a moan; it's just an observation. There are just so many layers of things that seem to come in. Like is it the rich data types where you can, which I think, like in principle, it's useful, but it's just another layer of something that, you know, it actually came up in a battle case once, and I hadn't seen it before. And I spent ages looking at this stuff going, what in God's name is that? And then I found out later, it's a rich data type. If you click in it, you can kind of pull certain bits of information from this, which again is really useful, but it's just more stuff for people to kind of try and keep up with.
But even in terms of rich data types, because originally there was, I think it was Wolfram Alpha, who were like a data company. So Microsoft had their data as data types. So you could like get information about exercise, and plants and flowers and space and atoms and all that stuff. And I remember Oz Dusoleil did a video about them, and there was a thing about exercise. It was how many calories do you burn milking a cow? That was an activity, and they gave you a number. Like it was exercise dot milking cow, and it said it was like 200 calories. Like, is that per hour? Is that per cow? Like there was no unit of measure that let you know what it was. It was just you burn calories by milking a cow, and it was under the exercise section. It was like, why is this thing even here? But anyway, so that was on the that stuff ended up going away. I don't know why Microsoft and the third party just yeah, maybe that went away, and we're kind of left with geographies and stocks and other things. But in that rich data type piece, you can create rich data types through Power Query, so you can create your own rich data types, and you can also use create rich data types using a JavaScript API. So there's multiple ways that you can create these rich data types. And again, I think there's something that apart from maybe stock value and some geography, most of that other stuff has kind of slid under the radar as being updates that people weren't massively concerned about.
But this is one of the lines of thinking I've got. If you think of where the future is going to go with, let's say we have an amazing Copilot. If Microsoft's secret plan is they're just going to make the Excel tool so powerful in so many different ways that eventually 99.9% of people are going to be opening up the Microsoft suite. Maybe it's not even just Excel. Maybe you just have a data set. You've got a 365 license. You just point Copilot at data on SharePoint or from like a real-time database or something, and you just go analyze that, and Copilot across 365 can go, right, we'll use a bit of Excel here for this. We'll do a bit of relational modeling here. We'll feed it through into Fabric. We're going to have like a Power BI dashboard that everyone can link to. And nobody actually needs to know that it's leaning on rich data types that are pulled through Power Query or whatever. It just does it. Maybe that's where it's going to end up.
I think it will be there to some degree. The challenge is with the fact that every company you've ever worked for, every company you've ever worked with has been different. Like even at a basic level, some of them are like, we don't care about EBIT. We're all about EBITDA. We're all about cash flow. We're all about this. We're all about that. And each of them use different KPIs and different measures. They think about their business in different ways. And so when you get something that builds that entire process for you, either Copilot is going to drive all of that and make EBIT or whatever it happens to be a KPI that everyone has to care about, or it's going to end up being that it's not going to create what people want because it's going to make assumptions about, the KPIs you care about are these, and possibly they're not. And
so
therefore,
that's my thinking, right? So I like playing this out. You and I can get away with this because we can just talk about it as much as we want because it's Excel realm completely.
Exactly.
I think for now, but like take our thinking a few steps forward. You remember I was saying like ChatGPT is starting to remember what I've told it before. So if you had like Copilot of the future really well set up in a company or in any company, one of the first things that people might do when you kind of start leveraging Copilot is go, right, this is the company. These are our key metrics. This is what we're trying to target. We've just had new investors come on board. We want to get to this level of EBITDA in 5 years, analyze our data. Here's some of our forecast models. These are the assumptions. Give me insights. What are the 5 top ways we might be able to leverage something to get to this EBITDA in 5 years? That's the kind of stuff, and produce a dashboard and Power BI and Fabric and make it available to these groups. That would be cool. But I do feel like we're probably quite a long way away from that.
I suspect we probably are. And also, I think there is an element of the further people rely on Copilot, and I kind of think this about hacking as well. So the more people rely on Copilot, or the more people rely on IT systems and other things, the easier it is to think differently and outside of that, and use thinking which, like almost older thinking, like to use the hacker example, everyone's so focused with online that actually somebody knocking at your door and conning you out of some money is probably easier. It's probably easier than it used to be, because maybe people are less suspicious of those things. So actually, when everyone's using Copilot, and Copilot almost ends up standardizing the way that we work, someone with an out-of-the-box kind of idea, someone with something that's out of that realm, has got potentially a competitive advantage, because they're not performing like everyone else.
Yeah, fair point.
So again, where that ends up, I'm not sure. Anyway, let's keep going with the updates.
So we just keep talking about Copilot, despite us apparently moaning about it all the time.
Most updates are Copilot.
Yeah.
So dark mode. So dark mode has been around for a little while. I think there was a change. So originally, dark mode, I think, was just the ribbon and the interface, but not the actual grid. And then the latest update in dark mode is the grid itself. So therefore, the whole, because before, if you had your ribbon in dark mode, but still the main bit of your sheet was white, that's not really dark mode, is it? That's still quite a lot of white. So, I mean, I'm not a dark mode user. I don't know if you are. I don't know if that will change your...
No, I don't. I mean, I haven't tried it, but it's another one of those things. I think it's a cool update. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it whatsoever. I'm not sure I will use it, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll change. It might feel like it's a little bit cooler. Dark mode. I don't know, but yeah, cool. So it's another fine update, I guess.
Yep. And now this next one is this one's on Mac. And in all honesty, I was like, how is this only just found its way to Mac?
What is it? Okay. Cables?
No, so it's worse than that. It's worse than that. So in Excel, if you want to view the same worksheet in two windows, you can go to View and select New Window, and then you get two windows that are viewing the same worksheet. So therefore, you can put them in different bits. That's what Mac has just got.
My God. Okay. But to be fair, so I'm on a Mac now. I've always, for the last few years, I've been in this space where if I'm doing non-Excel work, I'll generally use my Mac because it is better. It's just easier. But the moment I'm using Excel, I'm back on my Windows laptop. And I tried Parallels with a Mac, which was fine, but actually it's just a bit of a faff then switching between them, and I didn't get an external keyboard, so the Mac keyboard's different. Excel on a Mac, yeah, that's not easy.
No, but you can now get two views of the same.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So that's all the updates that I think are worth mentioning. So I don't think there's anything in there that's gonna, any game changers that's gonna change anyone's game. Obviously, that's the definition of game changer. So I don't think there's anything like that. But there's stuff coming. In the old days, we used to have to wait 3 years to get an update.
I'm not knocking on Microsoft's door. Honestly, I'm so behind. I think we said this a while ago as well. If they just stopped for 6 months, I think I'd actually thank them. Like, just let me catch up with regex and a few other things because I'm not up to speed. So I'm guessing most people aren't.
But that's because because of your Excel World Championship stuff, you're in the cutting edge of all these things, and the types of challenges that are going to lean heavily on these other methods.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, apart from trying, I used regex about a decade ago on some website projects. I've looked at it in Excel, but at the minute I've not had any need for it in the real world. Yeah, and I suspect that most people aren't going to have a need for it in the real world either. It's where you get onto those niche things. And in honesty, why isn't regex in Power Query? That's the real question, because that's the place where people are going to clean their data. And
yes, surely it's going to be in the pipeline. I mean, it's got to be, hasn't it? Because I agree with you that it would make more sense to me having it natively sort of there. You're right. I mean, for Excel World Championship battles, regex is very useful, but that's a very deliberate niche kind of sort of challenge that you tend to face.
But I'm sure someone will probably send a message and be like, "It is in Power Query. It's in this bit here and this bit here."
Oh, really? It is. I haven't seen it.
I've never used it. But there's always someone who's willing to say, actually, it is there, and you go, oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we might get found out then. That's fine. But I certainly haven't used it once in Power Query if it is there.
No.
Well, what do we do? What else do we talk about if there's no other updates from Excel?
Well, you mentioned about add-ins.
Yes.
So let's discuss add-ins briefly.
Okay. I can tell you my current add-in kind of set that I've got installed. Excel is one. It's really good. I think lots of people use this, so it's a very cheap add-in. I can't remember how much it is, but it's really good for sort of more sophisticated tracing of precedence and dependence.
Yep.
It's pretty much what I use it for. I've always had Oak, which is a review tool. Well, it's more than that actually. So I think historically it was just a review tool from Operis. It's called Operis Analysis Kit. I think it's about £400 a year for a license for version 5 point something. And I love it. I still use it predominantly for the review features. Like you can create these maps and it tells you lots of things about your workbook, you know, how many cells are active and any errors and like the relationships between formulas and various other things, like a risk factor of formulas based on how much nesting and what functions you're using. So I use that a lot when I'm reviewing models. And then the big one for me, I've also got Monkey Tools installed from Ken Pulse, which I just need to spend the time to use to greater effect because I know it's amazing. And then OA Robot is my one, which I'm using mainly for Excel battle kind of work at the moment, but it's definitely useful for much more than just Excel battle stuff in my head. So OA Robot's like a mini automation, what does he call it, micro automation tool, but you can set these packages up separately. So in my head, what it allows me to do, if I really get it working how I want to, is on my laptop I've got OA Robot installed. I've got a whole bunch of these command packs that I can lean on. And if I'm going into a battle, an Excel battle, then the first thing I do is go, right, import my battle command set. And that'll bring in all my battle lambdas and some of the battle VBA that I want. But if I'm doing a financial model, then I, in theory, and I haven't done this yet, I would go, okay, import my best practice financial modeling set. And then I've got all the shortcuts and the shortcut keys that are linked to best practice modeling. And you could just multiply that out into whatever other things you're doing, which I think is very, very clever. So
I was listening to Miles on Paul Barnhurst's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So this was so he was on there a few weeks ago. I was just catching up with him. He mentioned using that. I think at Full Stack you've done an OA Robot support or something to do with the Financial Modeling Institute. So what piece have you done there?
So kind of like I was saying, it's a specific pack for people that we train to get through the AFM exam with FMI. And it's really simple. It's just a collection of about 10 or 15 commands. In fast standard modeling, you would put blue font on imports in your calculations, red font on exports that you're using somewhere else. You've got like a temporary coding formatting with yellow fill. So it just does all of these at the click of a shortcut sequence, which is great. Very
nice. So in terms of my add-ins, now some of this is going to be quite what's the phrase? Basically, I've got a few add-ins that I've built myself. Okay, so therefore, yeah, and so, but I built them, and they're available in our Excel Academy. So for our members to download and use, right? But so apologies if people are going, oh, I'd really like that, and you haven't got it and you can't buy it. So so it's membership only for people who are part of our academy. So the first one is the first one is one that's called Flip. Okay, and what Flip does is that you can put your favorite custom number formats in there, and then so if you want 2 decimal places, whatever you want, dates, and then with a click of a button, it then applies that custom number formats to all the cells. So therefore, because you can't move custom number formats between workbooks, so that's just an easy way you can save them in there. That then works through, and you've got your custom number formats. Nice. The next one is a new one that's called Function Vault. So in there, I can store Lambda and Power Query custom functions. You can search for them, you can import them, you can inject them into other workbooks.
Nice.
You can
All right, that sounds like OA, but like your version of OA almost.
But it only does custom functions, right? That's its thing.
Sure.
Then I've got one that's called Push, which was, so when I worked in FP&A, we used to do quite a lot of creating slide decks. So you'd have everything in Excel, but then you've got to get all this into PowerPoint. So I built this add-in that you could just select something on Excel, you click a button, and it puts it onto your PowerPoint slide, and whatever options you've got, it then optimizes it for that thing. So it will shape it on your PowerPoint slide. It'll optimize it for whatever the margins are on your slide. And whether you want a chart or a linked picture, whatever it is, that's just a really quick, it's a much faster way of building one-off PowerPoint presentations. Or if you then need to, if you want to use linked images, you can, because you just click the linked image and it creates your PowerPoint presentation. So that's one I use. The ones I use by other people. So Monkey Tools by Ken Pauls, again, that's one that I use. The thing I use most of all in there is actually the time sleuth feature. So you can, if you've got queries that you want to know, well, which one's fastest, which method should I use? You can create both those queries. You can then time them, and it says this one's faster than this one, and it creates charts of timing. And nice. that's really useful if you're trying to optimize queries. So Monkey Tools, the main feature I use is time sleuth. There's other things in there. There's a lot more advanced features, but time sleuth I love. In terms of charts, Peltier Tech, which is John Peltier's charting one. So it creates waterfalls and slope charts and a whole load of other charts just really quickly, really easily, and it handles all of the complexity around how things should be structured. So they're
look at that.
Yeah, they're I think that's the five add-ins that I use all the time.
Okay, I'm gonna do a bit of research on the Peltier one, because that sounds really good.
Yeah, so that's add-ins. Have we got anything else to mention? Actually, we're at 32 minutes in, so I think we're probably, I mean, if this got to the same length as a normal episode, people would start to question whether this was a mini update.
Yeah, true. It should be a mini. I just like yapping on. There's one feature. I'll give a shout out to Michael Jarman for this, the Excel World Champion, who Michael's awesome. He's genius level with the other top players. And if you go and have a look at his LinkedIn, he's done exactly what I would do in his position, where it says on LinkedIn, Michael Jarman. And do you know what it says underneath that? Microsoft Excel World Champion. How much of a mic drop is that on a LinkedIn profile? Anyway, I went off on a tangent about Michael Jarman. So the feature he showed me was you can reverse the columns and the rows. So column A is on the right hand side, and it goes left. It goes right to left and bottom to top, which is not useful for us at all. But I'm guessing in some parts of the world, it's actually kind of required.
I mean, on the 1st of April, I would suggest it's exceptionally useful if anyone leaves their computer unlocked.
So yeah, I like that. It's a good feature. It might be popping up in a battle case at some point soon, which is pretty harsh, I think.
What I might do is set up my own Excel World Championship business entity, and then I won't advertise it to anybody, but I will be the only one that competes, and therefore I will
You'll be the champion.
So therefore, I will be able to call myself the Excel World Champion of an organization that doesn't matter. But at least I'll be able to get on my LinkedIn banner.
Love it. If I get into top 50, it's going on the top of my Bumble profile.
What's Bumble?
It's a dating app that I don't use. 49th in the world, Microsoft Excel.
I mean, it'll appeal to a niche set of individuals.
Yeah. On that note, we should probably stop talking, shouldn't we? Before we get ourselves in trouble.
Before you go any further and make another Durex Andrex faux pas like you did in the last episode.
I am cutting that up for a clip on LinkedIn. I can't believe that. I watched it back, and I needed you to get me there, because I went Durex, Dulux, and then you were like, no, it's Andrex. I was like, oh, damn.
I can't believe you went to Dulux next as well.
Oh, good fun. All right.
Yeah, good stuff. Right. Thank you all for listening. We will be back next week with a full podcast. So thank you all, and we will see you next time.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.